The goal of this podcast is to help you break in and thrive in advertising. And this is our very special episode of the Crowbar Award winning show. So the Crowbar Awards is a new creative challenge that we put out with a guest judge every 3 months. So around 4 months ago, Joe Staples, the CCO of Mother USA, worked with our team to develop a brief for Polaroid. In that brief, we wanted digital natives, which consists of 21 to 40-year-olds who have grown up in the digital age, surrounded by technology and social media. And we know that they are acutely aware of the pressures and complexities of modern life. And we know that they yearn for a sense of authenticity and connection. We wanted them, those digital natives, to embrace nostalgia as a source of comfort, inspiration, and connection. We wanted that audience to see Polaroid as a brand that celebrates the beauty of the past while also empowering them to create new memories in the present. We wanted them to use Polaroid products to capture and share moments that matter, to slow down and appreciate the beauty of everyday life and to connect others in a meaningful way. So we put that brief out and we opened it up to aspiring advertisers all across the world. We got so many entries, and Joe Staples combed through every single submission and narrowed it down to the top 4. Gold, silver, and bronze all got conversations with Joe Staples, but one stood above the rest. This is our Blue Crowbar winning team. This Blue Crowbar winning team comes on the show and talks with Joe Staples to get direct feedback. So we will be introducing our winners, Kailyn, Sawhny, and Ross Yenerich, who are on the show today because of their work. I'll pause there. What I will ask for everybody to do is head to www.crowbarawards.com to watch their RIP videos. It's beautiful stuff. It answers the brief, the best of all the submissions picked by Joe. Once you're done, resume playing the podcast. You're going to get a lot of information from one of the most interesting creative directors on the planet. He cares about their creative process, how they went around doing this brief, how they work together, and then gives his feedback with his diamond approach that he probably has a patent pending on. So even if you didn't submit, you're going to learn a lot from this discussion on how Joe evaluates creativity and how you can take it to your own campaign development. So congrats to the winners. On with the show. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast, and as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. All right. Ross Yenerich, Kailyn, Sawhny. Is that how you pronounce it? Sawhny?
Yep.
Yes, we're here. Joe, we did it. It's the Blue Crowbar finalists, the best in show, the winners. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Round of applause.
Thank you.
You guys crushed it. I'm here just to kick things off, and I'm going to go on mute. Maybe I'll go run some errands or anything, because it's really about Joe and your work, you two. Joe Staples, our guest judge this quarter. Really, it's your show, Joe. You did a great job. You looked through all the submissions. We had a record-breaking amount of submissions for this quarter's Crowbar Awards. The brand, Polaroid, you guys had 3 months to work on it. You could have teams of up to 3. I see 2 people on this call, so you didn't even need all 3 people. I think that's worth noting, too. So we can kick things off here with just some introductions. Ross, Kailyn, please tell us about yourselves. Ladies first, of course. So, Kailyn, what was your role on this? What are you up to today? What role do you want to break into? Tell the people who you are.
Sure, yeah. So I'm a junior at SMU. I was the art director on this Polaroid campaign. I would love to be a creative director eventually one day, and my ultimate goal is to end up on the West Coast. So,
got the right person judging.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ross, how about you?
What's up? I'm Ross from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm a graduating senior at SMU this year, and I'm a copywriter on this campaign. And eventually I'd like to do writing for perhaps entertainment industry things, or break into a city that has bigger entertainment industries and do writing for those kind of companies would be super cool. Maybe be a creative director one day.
Another good connection here with Joe. So I love that. And Joe, I got to tell you, when I called them that they won, they were in a classroom on a Saturday morning perfecting their work. They already submitted. You already declared them best in show, but they were still working on it early in the morning on Saturday. How do you feel about that? I personally think it's great.
It's fucking amazing. There was been a period of time when that wouldn't have happened, and I feel like it's perfect timing. It's incredible. I think the amount of good ideas you have is almost entirely dependent on the amount of bad ideas you have. So like just going back in, doing the stuff, getting the reps in, not being satisfied. I wasn't going to criticize any of what had been done. I have some notes, but yeah, I think it was amazing. And before we start this, I went through a lot of submissions and have done this periodically throughout my career. And I have to say that I don't want to shit talk anyone, but there's something generationally happening that I think is really very good. That about 10 years ago-ish, there was kind of an arrogance to young creatives because the internet was evolving so fast. It seemed like you just had to have expertise in the internet. And what was amazing is that because kind of it's a trite phrase, but being a digital native is just literally everyone now. I looked at so many ideas and almost all of them had that, reductive is one way of saying it, but the simplicity and clarity that I do think I haven't seen from young creatives for a while. We'll get into this because you had that, but you had 10 other things going for you. But it was like, overall, I was wildly impressed. So like, I thought the top 4 were great, but the top 10 were great. Gino, we talked about like top 10, there was wonderful work. So yeah, I was really impressed. And this one, I was like, holy fuck. And you're a junior. Yeah. And I'm like, it's really it's very, very good. You have a lot going for you guys. Like the writing was beautiful. We'll get into all of these things individually. Mm-hmm. I want to go back to the brief. I'm going to ask you like 15 questions and you're going to forget 13 of them at least. But did you read it together? Did you do first gut reactions? How do you work together? What music do you listen to when you're working? How do you allocate roles? How many ideas did you have? Did you argue over which was the best one? How long did it take? I talked to a team the other day and they were like, we did it in 24 hours. And you might do it in 24 hours, might do it in 3 months. But like, take me through it. Like microwave fireplace. How did you get to it?
Yeah, so we got the brief and we read it together and we sat down and went through original ideas. We had, like you said, a lot of terrible ideas. I remember some first ones were like houses burning, but the Polaroid is still there because like supposedly you can't burn a Polaroid really, but there were a lot of bad ideas. And yeah, we definitely, in the beginning stages of this, sat and read it together. And we also went through and ideated original concepts together. And we actually ended up switching directions entirely for art direction wise, like pretty late into it. Against the advice of our creative director, we told him, hey, we think this idea is a lot stronger than what you're suggesting. And so we're going to go with that. And I think Kailyn can talk a little bit more about that, but that's how we landed on the old footage that was from VHS tapes or even older than that.
Yeah, adding on to that, like originally, because we were working on Polaroid in one of our portfolio classes with our professor, Mark Allen, who like was ultimately like kind of the creative director, but was just like there for guidance really. He was like kind of setting us down this path where it's just like the beauty and simplicity, like the Polaroid, that's all you need to show, just like show the Polaroid developing the entire time, like nothing more. You just need to show the Polaroid developing for the whole spot. And we were doing that, and I just couldn't pay attention to it. I got so bored. Like, and Ross was writing beautiful scripts, but like everything was just going in one ear, out the other, because I just couldn't pay attention to what was on the screen, even though we were making them. And so, yeah, I had like this idea of, like everyone loves looking at nostalgic videos of like the shitty VHS quality, because it brings like a sense of emotion and nostalgia when you look at them. And I had this idea like a while back, like just when we were first concepting, where you'd see this video and it would stop on a frame, and like that's what the Polaroid kind of held within the frame, was this whole entire memory behind it. So there was one night I remember I was talking to Ross and I was like, no offense to Mark, but like I don't want to do this idea anymore. I'm really tired of it, and I think we should switch directions. And Ross was down for it. We were brainstorming more, and we eventually came up with this concept together, which I'm really proud of.
What were you writing about when it was on the development idea? What was your narrative?
The narrative was more about like the chemical process of the Polaroid and how it captures the light of the scene, which it does. Like, it truly does capture the light, which
and
is
it's
different
like
than
an impression.
Which is different from how iPhones use like literally AI to give you the best looking image of what you want. So Polaroid literally captures the light, and it was about the chemical process and like the impressions on it. And part of it was also trying to relate words like impressions, which are social media things, to also the impression of like the Polaroid light. Yeah. So there was a lot of comparisons with social media in that time still, which we kind of carried over, but we also had this big idea called 1 of 1, which we ended up carrying into our scripts. So this was an idea where it's like every Polaroid is a 1 of 1, but it's written like 1 over 1, like an art piece, because every painting is a 1 of 1. So we ended up carrying that into our current campaign, which you can see it lives in some of the scripts. And I think it's all embodied throughout the whole campaign. Like each moment is a 1 of 1 still. So, yeah.
And at what point in that process did you talk about making films, making rips, making videos?
Well, if you're talking about the beginning part of the videos, those are all from found footage. So we didn't have access to these for a long time because we don't have like these stockpiles of VHS footage in our hands. It's our family and older people that have them. So we had to, like, I called my grandpa, went through like hours of footage looking for clips, and my dad's friend had clips, and we went through a whole bunch of different sources of material, and we ended up finding some clips that worked really nicely together to create this campaign.
Yeah, one of them was one of them was like my birthday party when I was little. Like it was cool using that old footage.
I think that this is not the way I chose the top 4, but it is one way I chose it, which was I got excited enough that I wanted to help creative direct it.
Cool.
Which is, you're onto a thing, and I was like, I want to be at the table when you're talking about this. Because for me, there were a bunch of themes that came up in it. 1 of 1 I thought was really interesting, but I remember seeing it and having this thought that was, since mobile phones, we haven't remembered anyone's phone number because we don't need to, right? And my thinking and fear was, with photos in the cloud, maybe we are subconsciously giving up some of our visual memory.
I think you're 100%. Yeah, I think you're 100% right. Totally. We read a few articles that said exactly that. Like, because we have these devices that take our photos and store them, we can just take a million pictures, put them away, and not remember what we actually looked at or what we took pictures of. So it actually impairs our memory, even though you think, oh, this is helping me remember because I can look back. But you take too many.
These are broad conversations. I'll tell you, I'm going to rant for 4 minutes. And I'll talk to you about how I teach problem solving at Mother. And people don't have to do the thing I'm talking about, but they do have to know the thing I'm talking about. And then at weekends, I teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Cool.
And I teach the same system, but applied to fighting. And you can see me, so maybe I'll narrate it in case people aren't looking. So it's a diamond, and we facetiously call it the Joe Staples Diamond of Success, because I don't want anyone to think it has to be taken seriously, but it's a little bit serious. And that is, there's a point at the top and there's a point at the bottom. And the point at the top is to agree on what you want this thing to do, this process. So you can call that thing, you can call it a brief, you can call it an agreement, but it's a point. So it has to be clear, and it has to be fine, and it can't be a waffle, and it shouldn't be 16 pages. And then the propensity for your work to be good is as broad as you can have conversations while working on the brief. And if you think about that diamond, the broader point is about halfway down. And then as good as the work is as clearly and as simply as you can execute broad conversations. And time, if people are not looking at this, time is the vertical axis. So anyone at any point, be them a mother, a strategist, a producer, a client, anyone can come into that process at any point, as long as they're clear where we are in the diamond. So if it's a 2-week project and you come in after 2 days, do not fucking expect to see we open honor. Do not expect to see layouts. Do not expect to see. What you should expect to see is an evolving and broadening conversation. And for me, when I looked at your work, the conversations that came to mind were these things, which is, are we relegating our memory to the cloud in the same way we relegate our phone numbers? That, I thought that was amazing. I thought how we remember is interesting. I read a thing recently which was about when you close your eyes and think of whatever, you can think of a fruit, think of an orange, how clear is the orange? And then they had images in front, and in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's 100% clear. But then I closed my eyes and did it, and it wasn't 100% clear. It's not a photograph. It's not HD. It has a shape and a feeling and a smell and a touch, but it's not HD. So the conversation was, are our memories of nostalgia sepia toned or soft, or is memory just not that clear? Memories maybe not HD. And I think some of the themes you were talking about here were, it's more important how we remember something than what it was. That if you take 50 photos and choose the best one, that's not how you'll remember it. I remember a few years ago telling my wife that one of the things we've been together 31 years today, guys. But I remember telling her one of the things I thought was the most beautiful about her was she has a little crooked tooth. And it's not crazy. It's not bad. She's not a weird homeless woman. It's just not completely straight. And she was distraught. And I think it's the imperfections that are the ways memories work. And when you recall something from 25 years ago, it's rarely the highlight reel. It's something that has different senses attached to it, and it's flawed, and it is like weakness is where the true power is in any superhero story or in life or memory. So for me, just looking at your work, it felt like you'd gone really broad. I don't think you can get to work like this while thinking about Polaroid, the film, just Polaroid, the film process, and the practicality of it all. It has a depth to it. It talks about love and life and regret and fate and big themes. And then you found a way to bring it down. So I don't think I have a question for you on that, but just to say I appreciated it a lot. Yeah, and maybe ask what kind of comment, what did you chat about? What did you bring from your own backgrounds when talking about this, other than the footage?
So it's a lot of what you said, like those big, broad conversations about philosophy. And our professor is also a part-time philosophy teacher, so we had some pretty in-depth conversations with him about like these potent moments that you immortalize in your mind, that they're not exactly what happened, but they're what you remember, and that's what matters because that's what you carry forward.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, we did have some trouble bringing it back to Polaroid at the end. We had somebody else look at it, and he was like, "What are you selling here?" But I think we ended up closing off some of those errors a little bit, but it definitely took a while to broaden it out, but then also to bring it back to the execution.
The tip of the diamond. And again, the reason I say people don't have to work in the process I am talking about, but you have to understand it, because I will say things like, you haven't gone broad enough. Or, to people listening, you make the broad point, but then sometimes it just goes straight down. You're basically building a house shape, not a diamond shape. And that's the other important thing, is to be able to have profound, large human conversations and then execute with clarity. I think you did.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Why did you redo stuff?
There was a lot of technical issues, like execution wise, just trying to get that transition right. Like when the moment would freeze and we're pulling out and revealing the Polaroid. Like at first we started with like a real Polaroid, and the picture had a bunch of green tape over it so we could like superimpose the image. And that was just like, we did a really shitty job, like trying to match those points up when pulling out. But we then decided to print out the actual photos and put them on the frame and make it look like it was a real Polaroid. And that was a lot better execution-wise. It was a lot smoother pulling out of the transition as well.
It still needs a little bit of work on the part that goes from, because how we filmed this logistically was, we had the videos obviously in Premiere, but then we shot a video of zooming out of the fridge or whatever scene it was. So matching those and getting the angles right and making sure that it all zoomed out smoothly was the tough part, and still is the tough part execution wise. We're still trying to smooth out those details in it, but yeah,
a lot of trial and error. And also I know the original submission we had was like, one of them was I was the voiceover in one of them, and I think Ross was the voiceover in the second too, but that was never like really the plan. We always had a couple people in mind when doing the voiceover. It's just time wouldn't allow for that, but I'm glad we were able to get the other people.
Yeah, we've updated them since then, which I think they sound a lot better and just more polished overall. But it still definitely needs a bit of work, and I think we're going to put in that work. We've got ideas for extensions down the line and other like partnerships with the brand, so we definitely want to keep working on this for our book.
That's wonderful. Now, what music do you listen to when working? What podcasts do you listen to? What books are you interested in? What films do you reference? What's in your...
I'll say right away, have you seen Barry Lyndon?
Yes.
That movie was kind of an inspiration for the zooms, but also the lighting in our shots. We tried to employ natural lighting, and there was definitely some inspiration taken from that as far as composition and lighting goes. I guess for music, what I like to listen to when working is usually stuff without lyrics or like slow rock, but usually lyricless stuff. So either like classicals or jazz. Rarely it's electronic, but classicals or jazz for me if I'm working. Sometimes white noise, but
I just listen to my playlist because I know every single word, like to all the songs on my playlist, so I just tune it out. So a lot of like Lana Del Rey and Alex G and Steve Lacy and all.
Yeah, there was a little bit of, The Kid Stays in the Picture?
Oh, what is that?
There's a movie called The Kid Stays in the Picture. I think you're going to watch it and go, oh yeah, we did kind of do moments of that. There was, I think you can tell when people read, you can tell when people, I knew you would have references. And I think over the last 20 odd years, I've looked at a lot of books, of young books, but of creative directors and ECDs and CCOs. And there's 2.5 things I look for. And the 2 things are, is it clear this person loves solving problems? Like a deep desire to fix the world, to be given a problem, whether they come up with it or whether they're briefed on it. Is your creativity problem solving? And then the other thing is, can I feel them in it? And that doesn't mean you only have one style. That doesn't mean that, but that you are pulling from personal experience. That there are sometimes books you read where you go, yeah, you solved the thing, and it feels like you just referenced ads, or not even that. You didn't pull from anything. Those are the two things. The half thing is that the more senior someone gets, the more I would like to be jealous of some of the work. But mainly the first two. I want somebody to be able to bring themselves to work. I think that's why it's also really important to have a diverse group of people working there, so that we can have all those references in the same room, in the same building. Yeah, really, really lovely. Next kind of question, and then I'll shut up for a minute, is where do you think this will go other than film and moving image?
What do you mean by that?
When you bring your piece down to absolute clarity,
Mm-hmm.
when you keep working on it, where will you go?
Well, one thing we'd like to do is a partnership with, this is a potential idea, with Alzheimer's Association to do, and so Gen Z is the market, right? But Gen Z millennials are the people that have witnessed their grandparents lose their memories, and they've witnessed their parents lose their parents' memories. So it's like there's a fear of losing that, and I think that Polaroid can actually solve that problem by, if we market this to Gen Z, but as a gift thing where it's like,
yeah,
you should be giving these things to your grandparents, because when you hold this memory, it feels more real. Like we said in the case study, when you hold this photo, you're taken to a place that's not where you're standing right now. So it's like, if you can, I think it'd be cool to be able to help grandparents through targeting Gen Z also.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Maybe I'll send it to you afterwards. But a bunch of years ago, we did this work for the MS Society, and the horribly poetic thing about MS is it normally robs you of yourself, of your identity, of the ability to do the things that defined you. And our idea that we went to YouTube did not buy this idea, but we did make some examples of it. And if you watch it now, you'll know how long ago it was because of the technology we used. But the idea was that we found people that had MS and were in wheelchairs, and we then gifted them experiences to be seen in VR. So there was a guy who was part of the first kind of generation of Americans to surf in Hawaii. He's now like a 65-year-old dude who lives in San Diego, still does ding repair on boards because he wants to be part of the culture, but hasn't surfed in many years. And we got Wingnut, famous longboard surfer, and some of this guy's friends to paddle out at his local break with a VR camera on his head, which at the time was ginormous, and go and surf for him. And then we could gift the experience. And what was crazy was the guy was in a wheelchair, and he didn't know this was going to happen. And we went around to his house with Wingnut and said, we went and surfed for you. And here's an experience gift. And he put these goggles over his face, and his body went from this, I'm sitting up, right, to, and he just became a surfer again. And we were off camera crying because he became the person he always was. And these are the kind of like generational dynamics, emotional dynamics that can be important, should be important. You're reframing it. Chris Milk was a massive inspiration for that work. He talked about VR glasses being empathy engines. So you can walk in somebody else's shoes. And our take was, maybe you can walk in your own shoes again. So there's something really, really lovely in that area you're playing with. It's really, really nice.
What do you think didn't work about our campaign?
I took some notes on this. Let me think what I talked about. I think that there's a space between one of one and more than a moment. And I think that could be clearer.
Okay.
Now, sometimes what you have to do is you get to those two things. They're a little bit apart, and then you execute 5 or 6 places and then see which one fits. But it's hard, and don't say one's a positioning and one's a line. None of those conversations, but like, what is the essence of this piece? Which is, and you don't have to have the conversation in lines, but you could say, our idea for Polaroid is this is what memories look like, and we're going to celebrate that in different places. So we are going to promote it, we're going to celebrate it, we're going to share it, but it's always going to be about what memory looks like. Then you will be able to choose which of the lines is right. One of one is a beautiful idea, and More Than a Moment is a beautiful idea. But this is about the singularity, and this is about emotions and memory. And for sure, there's an overlap, but there could be a little more clarity there. I thought your choice of sound was great. I thought the footage was beautiful. I thought the writing was great. I like the voiceovers. There's something nice about believing it's a person. At some point, whether you've done it yet or not, you'll listen to voiceover reels and it will be like, that's a voiceover, that's a voiceover, that's a voiceover, that's a person. Mm-hmm. And these are the things that I think that are really important about advertising, which is at a time of big data, we've been in big data for a long time. Big data will tell you what holds us together, and they're always broad themes. But a lot of the time, the autobiographical nature of, am I the only person who does this, resonates far deeper at a completely different frequency. And I say, my flippant way of saying it is things that are obvious in hindsight. And Robert, who started Mother, he calls those things undiscovered cliches. So finding that personal thing, and this is my example that I use and people think I'm mental. When you were young, hopefully the mic picks this up. When you were young, did you make this noise? And try and get it to crackle as slowly as possible. We all did this thing, normally in the bath because of the acoustics, but I've never had a conversation with anyone about it. But when I sit around and go, people go, oh, I used to do that. So our job is to find those things that are personal to ourselves, but we're not the only ones. It's everybody. And I felt that in some of this work, which is I've been there, I felt that, I've seen that. Like my dad had a wax jacket when I was a kid, and I would sit on his shoulders, and when it rained, I could smell it. And I'd be like, fuck, that takes me to there. Now, what's that memory like? Like, what am I seeing? Is it first person? Is it third person? And if we use hundreds of images in our iCloud, do we remember the photo or do we remember the moment? I think you have to navigate that space. What else? What else can I help with? What can I talk to?
I guess I've got a totally unrelated question to our campaign, but it's more about Mother. I guess I'm curious how much work or how much collaboration is done between offices of Mother.
That's great. Very, very good question. I will not answer it directly. What I will say is Mother in the US is about five or six companies. So there's an office in LA and an office in New York, and there's design. There's a Mother Design, it's separate, and that's in New York and that's in LA. And then we have Media by Mother, and we have Super Bloom, a production company, and we have a Ventures Group. So as opposed to a holding company, we don't have to sell all the different groups to our clients. So our job is to hang out and work with and make the work better. We just share a space with lots of these people. So Mark Sloan, who runs Mother Design, sits on the table right next to me there. If I swivel my chair, he's there. So the collaboration is a collaborative culture. Mother was started literally around a kitchen table. There were seats around the table, and one seat was always for the client. So a client can come in whenever. And that just means it's kind of a collaborative culture, and nobody has offices and all the rest. Then there is the different offices. Sometimes we share people, and sometimes it's actually more rare than you would imagine. We work globally. But for example, I did a project for a pitch that we won for a hardware company that was Mother LA, Mother Design, Media by Mother, Mother Shanghai. And it was great, super amazing fun. And because we're only 7 or 8 offices, we all know each other. So it wasn't really Mother Shanghai, it was Winston and Wanshi who run the office. And it was Dave and Maria at Mother Design. And in LA, it was Mauricio and da. So, but more and more we are being asked to. And the more groups you work with and the more offices you work with, the more important a singularity is. Because if you can have this conversation and you can talk around this positioning like you did here, and you say, we're not about documenting facts, we're about holding on to memories. You can brief a designer on what does that look like. You can brief a media group about, if we weren't about perfection, and if we weren't about fact, and if we were about emotion, where would we be? Who would the audience be? So the more things come dispersed, the more clarity is needed, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think I answered the question. Did I?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
I have a question about so Mother being an independent agency, like how does that differ being part of compared to like a bigger agency that's owned by a bigger group? I feel like you can kind of tell when Mother does a campaign, like there's something different about your ads, and like a little, I don't know, they're just like more out there.
Yeah, it's a strange one. Now there's an inspiring way to say this and a disparaging way to say this, and I am trying to think which one I should do. I'll do the slightly disparaging one first, which is, if you are an agency that works for a holding company, your client is the holding company in business terms.
Mm-hmm.
Your client is the product. And my brain's just not smart enough or have enough RAM to be able to retain that talented Mr. Ripley sort of back channeling and relationship building. And there's something wildly simple about, we have products that clients talk to us about, and our clients are clients, and we are only incentivized to work to use our creativity for our clients. And because there is no holding company, the relationship's incredibly simple. And what you probably feel, to make this optimistic and less disparaging, is that we are culturally encouraged to tell the emperor they have no clothes. No one's holding us back from that. So we can have a really, we're only there to help. We're not trying to make money to send to Paris or New York or wherever. We are literally trying to use humanity and creativity and data, and we're trying to use everything at our disposal to solve a problem. So if you feel that there's an honesty to it and a playfulness to it, it's because we hope that that was the right creative solution.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually just like you work. Like, that's how, like, you don't have a holding company. As a student, you do not have a holding company. Your job is to answer a brief with creativity and verve and ebullience and energy. It's that simple. Doesn't always work. Not everyone wants it, and that's also fair. But that is the plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is exciting. Now, have you told people in your class? Have you told your teacher? Did you tell people?
No, Gina told us very specifically not to tell anybody yet.
Okay.
Well,
that wasn't a trick question. I didn't know.
We did
Good
tell
answers.
the professor, but
You told your professor?
yeah.
Did you tell the professor you didn't listen?
Well, he knew.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, in the middle of it, I was like, sorry, Mark, like, we got to change direction. This isn't working anymore.
Yeah.
You say I told you so?
No, but
That is also something to hold on to for your career. I think that there's been the last 5, 7, 10 years in advertising that consultancies have been on the rise, and I have nothing inherently against consultants, but it is normally advertising and business backwards, because there's not going to be a deliverable for the most part. And if there is a deliverable, it won't be done by the consultancy. The bit that is hard is it's not always a jumping off point for stuff. It brings you up to date and then supposes what could happen with no pressure of having to do it. And I think it's different when you have a pressure to do it. So the thing that you probably found was this road is fruitful and not very long.
Mm-hmm.
And you do want something that will be fruitful and go forever. And if you think about the really great campaigns that we all look up to and are jealous of, I think almost all of them either went for 5 or 10 years or could have gone for 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
Now, what's the next thing you're working on?
Well, when we finished Polaroid, we just finished also another partner campaign for Shiner Rodeo that we were finishing up. And we also, in addition to that, we're finishing up like 5 or 6 other either individual or with other partner campaigns. So nothing exactly entirely new right now as far as advertising goes, but just polishing up some old stuff over the winter break and then hopefully getting some new stuff over the spring semester.
Yeah. Ross and I worked on 2 campaigns this semester, Polaroid and one being Shiner Rodeo, non-alcoholic beer. So lots of juggling all the different things this semester. Is a lot of work.
I think this was both of our busiest semesters as far as workload goes and just everything goes. It was pretty crazy.
Now, you don't have that much longer, Ross, and but if you guys talk about what do you want to do, what's the plan, how do you get to the West Coast, how do you are you writing TV, how are you what's the plan?
Well, so currently I write music. I've just released my first album, but I would like to write TV stuff. I don't know. Yeah, I would die to be in LA. I'd kill to be in LA. London also would be an awesome city. I worked there this last summer, so I definitely wouldn't mind going back there. But I don't know where exactly next, but somewhere where hopefully I can write creatively and something that is passionate to me would be the next goal for me.
Yeah, I've been dead set on living in Southern California. Even before I got into advertising, I love the West Coast. I have family in LA, and it's just probably one of my favorite places to be. So definitely want to make my way out there. I'm hoping to get an internship somewhere in LA this summer, test out the waters, and hopefully love it so I can get a job post-grad there and live there.
It is an amazing place to live. I think I came here 30 times to shoot before we moved here, and it is not the place that I shot. I don't go to the places I went to. I don't hang out there. I don't work. It's very, very different, but it's an amazing city, 40 villages. And you choose the village you work in, you choose the village you live in, and probably about 5 other villages. And then most of the rest of LA you won't see.
Yeah, it's huge.
Now, what work do you look up to? What work do you want to do from a TV point of view, from an advertising point of view? Maybe we ask that. Maybe that if we're getting near the end here, maybe 5 minutes of all 4 of us go through books to read, podcasts to listen to, TV to watch.
Well, I guess as far as books go, I read one really good book called Sapiens over the summer, which was about all of human history, literally from early civilizations to current days, and how we've changed, and especially recently so rapidly with our environment. We are not conditioned for this type of environment. We've been living hundreds of thousands of years in the wild, and now we have houses and running water and hot showers. So it's we've changed a lot in the past couple 100 years, and our bodies are not really adapted to that yet.
The chapter about LLCs, I know that's a weird thing to have a chapter about in Sapiens, is mind-blowing. That an LLC is like what is an idea. We've accepted it's like, I think they talk about Renault or Citroën, a car company. They're like, it's not the employees, it's not the building, it's not the car, it's just an idea. And these are the things we deal with. And our ideas inherently human. I would have thought, yeah, I read that. It's amazing. Every chapter.
Pretty cool book. Yeah.
It really is.
And then I also want to say, as far as work goes, when I was in London this summer, I saw the KFC ad in theaters, and I was like it hooked me right away. And then after, I think before the movie started, I looked up who did the KFC ad, and I found out it was you guys, and I was like, wow. Or it was Mother London, but Mother's still.
Yeah.
It was super cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read the most recent book I read was Little Women. That's just a classic, great book. Also such a great movie. But work that I look up to. My favorite movie of all time is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Such a beautiful film. And I don't know if you've heard of the show How To with John Wilson. It's on HBO Max. So great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it. It's like one of my favorite shows.
Definitely, if you haven't seen Interior Chinatown.
No, I haven't.
I think if you love Eternal Sunshine, it is.
Have you seen Memento?
The movie
Memento.
with Guy Pearce?
By Christopher Nolan. Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah, absolutely. I'll add in Mr. In Between. It's an Australian show that is, oh my goodness. Yeah, that's a roller coaster. It's so intimate, and the character development is wild and amazing. But yeah, those are all great. Gino, Silent Gino. What are
I'm
you
here.
into?
I'm here.
What are you not thinking about?
I'm thinking about people a lot and talking with people all the time in this industry. But some books, Shoe Dog, like starting the business, learning from Phil Knight was great. Moving to New York, I try to find books that suit what's going on in my life at the moment. So when I was moving to New York to launch Breaking and Entering, I needed to find a story of coming to age, to build confidence, a journey. So The Alchemist is a classic book that I recommend anybody that's about to graduate, listen to, read it, do both, and that'll help you navigate those challenges of when you're graduating, trying to figure out how to navigate the workforce, because everybody listening to this will break into the industry. And then just talking with people and all the amazing people we've had on this show can have a lot of great stories and advice too. So those are mine.
That's great. I'll add a couple in there. The Blind Boy podcast and books have, I wouldn't say saved my life. Rocked my world sounds very strange, but like makes me emotional in ways I'm not normally emotional. Really, really, really incredible. And also kind of makes me jealous of the writing, the talking is incredible. A friend of mine made a movie, American Animals, a few years ago. He's actually in LA filming right now, and I got to spend some time with him, so I rewatched some of his stuff. American Animals is wonderful because it is both. He's made a couple of these. I don't know if he invented the genre, but the space between movie and documentary, he's kind of spanned that really, really beautifully. And then I chatted with someone today who mentioned the new Vimeo work by Uncommon. The posters for the Vimeo conference, and I was jealous. I thought it was absolutely brilliant, and one of the reasons is it's one of the shittest briefs I've ever heard, which is make posters for a tech conference essentially, and they approached it with such openness, such optimism, and the work is so playful in a way you rarely see.
Love that. Joe, what about you though? What did you like? What do you consume? I know you have so many interests and you've gathered so many reference points. But for the aspiring advertiser that might be listening to this, do you have any like classics that you wish you would have started listening to when you were just getting in this industry?
Yeah, I have a lot, and I talk about them all the time. I would just say consume with no, like, consume everything. So part of that is have those conversations. In England, you would say go to the pub.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hang out. I race bikes for many, many years. I do a lot of jiu-jitsu. So be around people who are plumbers, who are policemen, who are teachers, who are students. Be around those people. If you're not into horse racing, buy a magazine about horse racing and read about it. And you have no idea when that's going to come up. Maybe never. But read about new theories of chiropractors. Read about why, like, real estate in different states. Like, you never know why you'll need that. And if you add that to the fact that we're basically paid to learn shit. I know about retirement advice and complying annuities in Australia. I also know a lot about football cleats. I also know a bunch about why people buy minivans. And if you add that to conversations with people who don't do our jobs. I used to go on a ride with this guy who was training to be a fireman, and we would sit in a group in a peloton, and I would sit two up, so two people, and I would just sit there for like an hour and just ask him about flammable materials and new foam they use, and how long it takes them, what GPS they use, how long it takes them to get across town. Like, just consume with no standards, limits, or pressure.
No agenda. Yeah.
No agenda, and then execute with agenda.
This is interesting. This makes me sound like you're telling the young audience or the people that are trying to break in, everybody has to be part strategist and researcher. Regardless if you're a copywriter or art director, with this group, I don't believe we have a designated strategist on the team, aspiring strategist. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's
Right.
true. And that's something that our professor talks about a lot. It's like everyone, because there's 3 tracks of advertising majors that SMU offers, and everyone kind of just thinks that the creatives are just like making pictures and it's easy and stuff. When in reality, it's like we also have to do a lot of strategy, even though there is like a strategic brand management major. It's like creatives also have to do a lot of strategy and understand like who we're targeting and what the market,
Especially
like
since
in
in our courses, our professor doesn't give us briefs. We write all of our own briefs. So we have to, figure all these things out ourselves, and then also figure out how to stick to the brief, depending on what direction the idea goes in.
I will flippantly say that if a brief is 70% good and you do 100% good work, I mean, it's hard to do 100% good work. You just got 100% of 70%, which is 70%. I would rather have a brief that was 95, 97, 100% good. And if you look at the work we normally look up to, here's another thing to do, which is go to lovetheworkmore.com, which is the free archive of can work. And don't watch it to copy it, but watch it to understand how people got to things. And then a lot of the time you realize that the strategy, the positioning, that moment was that, oh God, it's that. And once you have the, oh God, it's that, everything gets easier and better. And easier and better are quite a good pair, I think.
Wonderful. Any other questions? I think we're close to time here. I just want to know, just let you guys know, super proud, really inspiring stuff that you guys made. It touched me. Just going on with stuff in my life personally, the work brought me to tears, and just wanted to thank you for that. And that will be on our website, www.crowbarawards.com, so people can check it out, but really just blew me away. So really proud of you both. And I'm here as your accomplice. If you ever need anything breaking in to this industry, I'm here for you. So any final words here, Joe? Words of wisdom for them?
No, it was absolutely wonderful. keep on keeping on. Really,
Thank you
really
so
good.
much.
Thank
And
you, Gina. Thank you for hosting this competition, having us on, and Joe, thanks for judging and also being a part of this. This is awesome.
yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I feel like this would have never come up if Crowbars wasn't doing this brief. So truly thank you. It's been so great working on it and like so rewarding.
Ditto.
Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. Thank you all.